Well, hey again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder. And today, truth in lending or lender deception? Fannie Mae forms tell all. If you can follow me for any time, you know that earlier this year I'd done a series of videos on the Truth in Lending Act, TILA, where I was showing that if you were to look at your truth in lending disclosure that you're given and used a simple formula that Grok had provided for calculating the finance charges, that it appeared that the finance charges that are on the disclosure are very much understated. And according to the law, if they're more than $100 understated, well, you're supposed to have recourse by going through the regulators, such as, oh, hang on a second here, such as FDIC or the comptroller of the currency, or a place called the Bureau, which in the law is the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection. But when you try to go do something, they send you to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which, it's not the same thing, doesn't have the same name. In fact, I'll show you something here. So here's a building that says it's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But if you look closely at the logo on the door, it says Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection. Then you look inside, you see CFPB. Seems like there's some deception going on. And the CFPB is the organization that Russell Boyd is about to have terminated, because he took over as the director under President Trump's directive. And anyways, he said they didn't need any more money. They were shutting her down, and that's what's supposed to be happening. But the place that you're supposed to be going to is this place called the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection. So anyways, we were trying to do something with this back then, and weren't having any luck because we were sent to the CFPB, and their answers didn't lead to any kind of resolution. So here we are, continuing on. And going back a little bit further, in 2024, I had used a lady's paperwork from her very recent mortgage, and we were trying to do something through the court system that didn't work. So, here we are. What are we going to do next? And so what I had found was that if you go Google like Fannie Mae mortgage documents, here's the hits you're going to get. And so we're going to be looking at the legal documents, but let's start here first, and this will take us to those legal documents, where Fannie Mae talks about security instruments for conventional mortgages. Use of security instruments. Lenders must use security instruments for conventional mortgages that are correct for the applicable jurisdiction, yada, yada, yada. Security instruments for regular amortizing mortgages include Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Uniform Mortgage Deed Trust, and security deeds. In some cases, uniform security instruments may have to be adapted to meet lenders' needs for local jurisdictions. If, however, a security instrument is modified in any way, Fannie Mae will consider it to be a non-standard document. And so, as I'll show you, the documents look like they're not standard. In fact, there's been, using the documents that I look at, there's major faults with them. And but nevertheless, it goes on to say the current version of Fannie Mae Standard First Mortgage Security Instrument are posted on Fannie Mae's legal documents. Click the link and it'll take you to that site. The website also contains instructions for use of these documents, including any required changes and some changes that must be made at lender's option, called authorized changes. Lenders must make sure that any changes they make include changes authorized by Fannie Mae, comply with applicable laws. The standard uniform security instruments are used for almost all types of regular amortizing mortgages. In some instances, the standard security instruments may be modified by a rider. For example, a rider for adjustable rate, blah, 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 blah. And then you have these master form and short form documents that lenders may elect to deliver first lien mortgage loans to Fannie Mae using master form mortgage, deed of trust, and short form mortgage or deed of trust, short form. So you got a master form and a short form, or you have the standard form. These are the things that are going on. And so if you were to look at your deed, your mortgage or mortgage trust, mortgage or deed of trust, and you go to the bottom, excuse me, if you look at the note, the mortgage, the deed of trust, and you go to the bottom, you'll see on there it talks about Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac documents. So there are standard ones to be used. If they modified them and still used a document like that, then you're going to have a little more scrutiny. So let's see what we have to look at. I guess before we look at those documents, let's just go to the top here. You see where it says home buyer owners and renters, right? If you were to click on this, it'll take you to another page whenever it gets ready to load. Tick tock, tick tock. Watch where we make a difference in housing. Go to the bottom. Bottom, all the way down the bottom. And you'll see this loan lookup tool. That's really what this video is about, because when we get all done with the video, right, what I'd like you to do is to go to this site, and you go down here and you can put in your information, and it should show you your loan. Because the lender is supposed to send it to Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae does the insurance on it. So any loan that Fannie Mae is insuring should show up on this site. And when I tried it with the one I had to look at, nothing came up. I really couldn't go any further because it's not my loan. But the next step is, if you don't like what you see or don't see anything, which is probably what will happen, you're supposed to contact a HUD housing counselor. So the difference in this between anything else I've done before is, here's a federal site that says put your information in to see your loan. If it doesn't show up, well, somebody's got a problem. And at that point, it's not you, it's them. So let's see what else we can see. So as I said, we're back to this page now, selling guide, We have a link to go to legal documents. And you'll see that it has all sorts of things about notes and riders and security instruments and special purpose documents. So your mortgage or deed of trust is a security instrument, but your note is a negotiable instrument. Because as you'll see, it's made pay to the order of, which is the same thing as a check. They can, they can take that, and they do. They can take a note and flip it over in the back, put a blank endorsement on it, and deposit it just like money. Just to show you an example of one of those, this is a note, and you can see down here it's got Wisconsin fixed rate note, single family, Fannie uniform instrument, got a number on it. And here's what they do. They take your note. This is where the borrower signed. And without recourse, pay to the order of. And normally, this line here is blank. But what they did is they transferred this to somebody else. And so now, this is the way it shows up. We're paid to the order of. Blank, right? No name there. Whoever put their name there would be the owner. But they keep it in blank. Because if they were to put the name there, then it would be a check and they have to pay it in legal tender. So as long as they keep it in the bank, it's bank money or ledgers or whatever. But this is this was the first time it was done. They transferred the loan to somebody else, and now the people with the loan now, Greystone Residential Funding, have left the pay to the order of line blank. That's the same words that are on a check. Checks, notes, orders, I think, something like that, are things that are all a pay to the order of. So back to this page then, here's the legal documents, and like I said, there's notes, and there's the riders, and there's the security instruments. And if you go like the standard instruments here, It'll show you all the different states and what they use, right? And there's an instruction page and then the forms. Some have a master form and a short form. So master form, deed of trust, short form, deed of trust, or the standard form. Or like in Michigan, they don't have deeds of trust, they have mortgages. So it's just the instructions and the standard form. So you can download your instructions and what the standard form should look like and compare it to what you have. So since the loan we're going to look at is out of Texas, we're going to look at Texas's forms, right? Here's the instructions for the type of instrument being a deed of trust. And the first thing it says is that to comply with requirements of the Truth in Lending Act and Regulation Z, 12 CFR 1026.36G, lenders must add the name of the mortgage loan originator, the LO, and the NMLSR ID number for both an organization and individual to the last page of the security instrument. Just keep that in mind. And it has a lot of other things I had gone through, but for right now I don't want to go that deep into this. This just showing you this is where anything that they could do to the document has been spelled out on the form. So now let's look at, okay. So let's look at the master form to get rid of, because we don't have, the one I'm looking at is not a master, it's short, it's a long form. But here's the master form. So if you had the opportunity, or your lender had the opportunity to use a master form deed of trust, there would be a document like this, and it would be attached to this short form deed of trust. And as you can see, what would it say? Oh, it's only 3 pages long. Well, the mortgage I'm looking at is 10 pages long, so it couldn't be this. So this can't. And it says it's a short form. It's all sorts of things. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, short form deed of trust. The interesting thing is, it says parties, first of all, and borrower is, and then it has an address. Just keep that in mind. So I don't have one. I'm going to get rid of these. So I just want to show you there is such a thing, and now you have seen that. And just to have shown something for a mortgage, again, I have a deed of trust I'm working with, but this one is for a mortgage. Right, mortgage. It says the same thing to comply with, da-da-da-da-da. It's all right there in the front thing. NMLSR. Write that down, NMLSR. We're going to find out, well, they don't use the NMLSR number. They use an NMLS number. Well, that isn't right. And then the mortgage thing, it says the same thing. Starts with parties, and then it says a borrower is, and gives residing at, supposed to have an address in there. Okay, but it doesn't. But again, I don't have one of these to work with today, so let me just shut these down, and we'll get back to the one that we can compare to an actual living deed of trust and note that were issued by a lender or by an originator or a lender. And we'll just see how closely they comply with the law. I should say, before we go any further, the note has one also, right? Use this for all. First, right? This is for everybody. And guess what? It says the same thing. So both the security instrument, that being the deed of trust or mortgage, have to have this information, the mortgage loan originator, LO, and NMLSR ID number for both an organization and individual to the last page of the note. The same thing on the mortgage or deed of trust. So really quickly, this is the most recent version of a note. This isn't what we're going to be looking at, but this is the most recent version. And it says in the first line that in return for a loan in the amount of U.S. dollars, the principal that I have received from the blank lender. I promise to pay principal and interest to the order of the lender. Oh, that made it a check because you're paying to the order of. Now, the one we're going to look at, there had been a Fannie Mae form that was in this style at one time. In return for a loan that I have received, I promise to pay U.S. dollars. This amount's called the principal. All right, well, this doesn't say how much money you were loaned. It just says how much you promised to pay. The other one said you got a loan for this much. This one says you just promised to pay that much. And we could argue, well, then that is what you got the loan, but that isn't necessarily true. If I needed $10,000 today, I may say, hey, dude, I'm willing to pay you $15,000 and interest, right? And that would be like this, but it doesn't say that anybody lent me any money at all. So it just, kind of deceptive, I would say. And just real quick, this is 12 CFR 1030 or 1026.36, where it was talking about these things, where name and NMLSRID on loan documents. The name and the NMLSRID, if the NMLSR was provided, it and NMLSRID and the name of the individual, the originator, and NMLSR number. If the NMLSR has provided such person an NMLSR number. Well, again, we're going to see that they're putting something down that says NMLS, but it doesn't have the R on it. So it's like, well, they weren't really given this number then. But it goes on, credit application, disclosure required by some other section of the CFR, note for loan or loan contract, and the security instrument, which is the deed of trust or the mortgage, right? So it's in the Code of Federal Regulations what they're supposed to be doing. So let's take all that and see what's going on. Now, it would be really helpful if you had your buy-sell agreement, contract, or whatever it is you bought your house with also. Because, the same person buying the house is the one getting the loan. That's how it should work. We can see here they called it the buyer Kimberly Price. And the property, they got a lot, block, yada, 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 known as 8715 Burtwood Street. There's no city, no state, just a zip code. 8715 Burtwood Street, 77028. That was the address of the property that was being purchased. Now let's go look to see what address is given for the loan. Not the purchase, but, for the loan, for the mortgage. And so here's that page, right? This is the deed of trust. And just real quick, right, it says single family, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, uniform instrument. But as we'll see soon, it's been severely altered, starting with the borrower is Kimberly R. Price, comma, an unmarried woman. Well, that's nobody's name, right? That addition on there just changed it from being somebody's name. I think that's really inter vivos trust. Nevertheless, it's not the same name as the person that was the buyer, right? They didn't have on here, comma, unmarried woman. There's no middle initial. I believe it should be her full legal name, like Kimberly Renee Price, just like it would be on your driver's license, because this is a contract. Well, so's this. But the other thing is, it's missing the current residing at address. There's no address here. We go back to our master form. First, we'll see it should be parties to begin with, and the first one should be A. Here, there is no word parties, and the first one is security instrument. Borrower is B. and it's missing a current residing at address. There's no address. So it's already fucked up. Right? So keep that in mind. And then, because this is supposed to be parties, right? These are all parties to a contract. These are the borrower, the lender, and the trustee. They should all sign the agreement. Otherwise, it's not an agreement, or at least has to be acknowledged. To me, there had to be something from the trustee, because how do we know that who the trustee is? He hasn't even signed the damn document. That's all it was on this one. The only signatures on the deed of trust are the signature of the alleged borrower. And this was missing the last sentence, and right, so like I said, security instrument wasn't even supposed to be on this page. Nope, should be E. So now all these numbers are different. Now everything starts to get convoluted and messed up. And we get down here to transfer of rights. And they got this as the address. But it didn't say to put that in. It said to, put in the address, which should be this. But now look at this address compared to this one. This says it's 8715 Burtwood Street, 77028. 8715 Burtwood Street, Unit Pound A, Pound B, Houston, Texas, 77016. It's not even the same frickin' zip code. So you're getting a loan for something that has nothing to do with the place that you purchased. If you're getting a loan, I don't believe you got a loan anyways, but I'm just saying. It ain't the same as what you bought. So there's something wrong. All reasons to complain. And then a lot of this is just boilerplate stuff that I didn't read through it all, see if it was right or not. We just get to the last page. And then it said after if you remember, it said to put the NMLSR number after the notary stuff, which I think there should be more notary stuff. There should be an acknowledgement by the trustee and an acknowledgement by the lender. Neither of those are on here. And then we get down, and here's the lender, and they got an NMLS ID and the originator. But it should be NMLSR, according to 12 CFR 1026.36. So how are you supposed to know if this stuff is right? Well, they have a site to go look at. That would be the NMLS Consumer Access, where you can put in these numbers and get information off of them. And so for the originator then, who said that she was, who did she say she was? Let's go back and look. Lisa Alonzo. Well, this says Lisa Ramona Alonzo. And other names that's listed, Lisa Alonzo. Well, there it is, but they got all these other names also. And then you have prior legal names. Well, this is the name that they gave to NMLS to be used as Lisa Ramona Alonzo. But that isn't the name she used. Just because this was easier, I cut and pasted. So this is the number they gave, 2973. That's for Warwick and Volk Inc. Right, that's the lender. And that's their proper name. And that is what's on the bottom of the document. So actually, it's Warwick and, right, that symbol, Volk Inc. Now let's go look at what's on the bottom of the document. Warwick and Volk Inc. Well, that's not the same name. Right? So it's not the same name as the originator. It's not the same name as the lender. Yet that's what they put at the bottom of the form. Warwick and Volk Inc. with the and sign, the symbol. That's their current legal name, right? There's a trade name, Warwick, it's Wallach, excuse me, and Volk. But, we're not using trade names. We've got to use the legal name. And this is that other one right here, right, where Lisa Ramona Alonso, that's her current legal name, and here's her prior legal names, and these are other names. Well, I don't think you can just say, I'm going to use another name. I mean, who's Lisa Alonso? That could be God knows how many different people, right? Lisa Ramona Alonso is the one that has the ID number, although it's not an ID number with an R on the end, it's an MLS number. Even at the top, it says recorded mail to Warwick and Volk Inc., but that's not their name. So, apparently there's a little bit of deception going on with the deed of trust, starting the very first line where it should say parties. Start with borrower as being A, and then B would be the lender, and C would be the trustee. Right, here's the trustee, and here's his address, apparently. But he didn't sign the paperwork. I don't know who this is. Who's the trustee? You mean the trustee for the Inter Vivos Trust that we're talking about? I don't know. Let's go look at the note. Well, the very first line of the note, 8715 Berkeley Street, got that funky address. That's not the same address as the address that was purchased, 77028. I promised to pay that much money without saying you got a loan or how much the loan was. The newest document, it showed excuse me, how much the loan was, but not this one. And we go to the bottom, and we got the same problem. There's the Wallach and Volk Inc. and the loan originator, Lisa Alonso, not using the NMLSR, I spelled it wrong there, NMLSR number, 12 CFR 1026.36. There, NMLSR number is what it called for. So that must be like a registration number or something. There's something about the last dealy bop that means something. So we'll quickly step back to the the instructions for the deed of trust for Texas, right? Everyone had an instruction sheet. If you go down this page far enough, other pertinent information, any special instructions related to preparation of documents, special signature forms required, discussed below. If the borrower is an inter vivos revocable trust, we may require something. Lenders are responsible for making any modifications, including the use of different terminology needed to conform to signature forms customary, so forth and so on. So that was for that. And then it says each of the trustees must sign this document in a signature block substantially similar to the following, which should be inserted in the borrower signature line. Right? Blank trustee of some trust under the trust instrument dated. Well, we got a deed of trust. So that's, some kind of trust. Whether it's inter vivos or not doesn't make it stand for all kinds of trust, and this is a deed of trust. So how come the trustee didn't sign? And so an inter vivos revocable trust, also known as a living trust, is a legal arrangement created during a person's lifetime to manage and distribute their assets. I say that happened to you at birth. Before 1870, an infant could not be a party to a deed or a contract. In 1870 in England, they passed some law that said that, it's voidable. So if it's in your interest, it's okay, but it's voidable. And then they allowed her to do it. And I think that because we follow the laws of England, that we use the same thing here, and they made us all parties to an inter vivos trust, and that this is just a continuation of that. And that's why the borrower is Kimberly R. Price, comma, unmarried woman. Now, I asked Grok about this earlier. He said, oh, no, that's because of some law in Texas, and da, da, da. But the law that he said it had to do with, whatever Grok is, excuse me, had to do with selling property, not buying property. Right? That if you're trying to sell property, you have to say what your marital status is, but not when you're buying property. And he agreed that, oh, you're right. Ha, 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 you got it, type of thing. But, there's no reason that isn't the borrower, because that isn't the name of the person that was buying. So again, if you would, everybody needs to do this, because this is how we're going to catch them, is people just start piling on and saying, hey, why isn't my loan showing up on the Fannie Mae website? If you go to the home buyers, owners, and renters site, again, you go down to the bottom, you find the thing that says loan lookup tool, and you put your information in, first name, last name, and it says fill in every field carefully, typos and small mistakes. Oh, don't do this to me. Sorry, I thought my computer froze. You still working? Yeah, okay. Fill in every field carefully. Typos, small mistakes can affect the results. Check the box to give your consent. Click get results and so forth. So I had all the information I needed to do this. Check the box, and I'll show you the results I got. It said we did not find a match. Right? I put in Kimberly R. Price, that address. I tried it with 2 or 3 different versions of the address that they gave, and the zip code that they were using. Now, again, this is coming off of the note or the deed of trust, not the address that was on the buy-sell agreement. It says, well, what's your next steps? Well, you can talk to a housing counselor, and that's what I suggest you do. That if you do this, you don't have it, you contact her and say, hey, I can't pull my loan up on your document. Now, this is a HUD-approved housing counselor. They're available to help you find options, work with your mortgage servicer, recover from financial setbacks, such as being screwed by a lender because they never lent you any money. They just pretended to do it, and then they took your note and they deposited it. And once it's in the account as bank money, they can invest it. They go buy stocks and bonds and everything else. So that's where we find ourselves today. And for national security, we need to do this, because this is why we have a $37 trillion debt. Because no one's checked the paperwork and said, well, you didn't do it right. I don't actually owe you anything. Give me back my check. So we should be saying. So if you do this and you get any kind of feedback, please leave a comment on the video, and maybe send me something to courtofrecord@aol.com. That's my email address. All right, so I can do a follow-up video with a little more detail, because I only had the one to look at. It didn't come in. I can't get a hold of a HUD counselor myself because it's not my loan. But, somebody else can. Let me know what you find out. I'm waiting to hear. And I'll leave it there, and you all have a great day, and let's, bust this thing open. Okay, now. See ya.